Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Resilient Living Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my co host, Jared Wilson,
Hey.
and I'm Ryan Steva, and we're going to talk about food preservation on the homestead for preparedness and a few different methods and the pros and cons of each. So, Jared, this was your topic or what you kind of came up with.
Yeah.
What made you think of this and why?
It's kind of been in the background of a lot of what we've talked about over the last several months of, being prepared and having all of these different, growing different foods. Like, well, okay, now that you've grown it, how do you keep it? And there's a lot of different methods and there's a lot of different reasons for those methods. And so as I was researching all of the different crops that I wanted to grow, I started delving down all the rabbit holes of like, oh, well, this crop does well in this, type of preservation. Well, this crop does well in that type of preservation. I was like, you know what? There's a great topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been reading through your notes, and not only do you have, different methods of preservation, but we've got some notes in here about how to think about preservation and even how to test, stress test your preps. So
Right.
I think that's great. I'm excited to get into this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the first segment or the first section that you had on food preservation?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. So kind of the overarching idea though is that there really is no single best food preservation method. They all have caveats. They all have their own exceptions and reasons for, existing. So like, if you're everything you're going to do is freeze dried, that's going to be very time consuming and very expensive. If everything you're doing is canned, that takes up a lot of physical space and is susceptible to physical damage. If everything is dehydrated, like you get the idea. So the first one I really wanted to dive in was freeze drying. I've never actually gotten to freeze dry. I have some friends that they have a freeze dried candy business, and so I've kind of picked Steven's brain a little bit about freeze drying, but it's a really fascinating method. I mean, you have the sealed chamber that is chronically chilled to, but then it reduces the internal pressure such that the boiling point, so that the water evaporates out and is removed physically from whatever it is, but that takes a lot of time. You have an expensive machine. I mean, you can go down to Tractor Supply and pick yourself up a what are they? The harvest rights
Mhm.
for
Yeah, it's a common one.
3 grand. I think they're about. And you can definitely do some stuff. I mean, the chamber isn't super big, but you can absolutely do some stuff. But I mean, that's 3 grand. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of other methods that we'll talk about for $3,000. But when all said and done, you end up with something that's shelf stable for 25 years. That's pretty cool. And then the other one was that it retains the nutrients so much better. So, pluses and minuses. Yeah, it's expensive. It's time consuming. There's maintenance involved with it because you have your oil that has to get changed out in your pump and all this stuff. But you end up with a really good, high nutrient, shelf stable, preservation system. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely there's trade-offs in each one of these, and I think it's important that we kinda highlight what some of those trade-offs are.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned here, if you're putting these, the freeze-dried stuff into Mylar bags, you're potentially looking at 15, 20, even 30 years for certain objects and depending on how well they're processed and stored.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, absolutely.
But that doesn't do me a whole lot of good if this is something that I wanna eat over the winter. It's kind of a waste, right?
Exactly, yeah, and I know people who do. I mean, heck, I just watched a TikTok from our friend Stacy
Mhm.
reconstituting some mashed potatoes from last December,
Nice.
and yeah, I mean, like, there are some things that, you know and eggs are a really cool one. Like, you can just, blend up a whole bunch of eggs, throw them in there, let them freeze dry, raw, not even cooked. And then that way you can reconstitute and go, yeah, one egg is about this much of, this powder, and you just
Yeah.
figure it out.
This big of a scoop plus this much water.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
really cool. To be able to have that on hand, just to be able to scoop, dump, go. That's really slick.
Well, and to me, being able to freeze dry things like meats or eggs
Oh,
or dairy, like
right,
high nutrient density foods that otherwise we wouldn't be, we couldn't save anywhere near that long. To
right.
me, that makes the most sense. Or if you're, sometimes people freeze dry things just because they're fun as a snack. Like you can
Yes,
turn, like I don't know what corn tastes like freeze dried, but it wouldn't make any sense to use that amount of electricity to actually preserve corn. However, maybe now they taste like, you know, your natural version of a kind of that Cheeto feel, the
sure.
crunchy, airy, I don't know. So there are things though like that that I know are really good, like asparagus freeze dried
Mm.
apparently is a really tasty snack.
Yeah,
Um,
especially, yeah, you season it, they're
mhm,
really good, yeah.
yep.
Well, and so, like, I would agree with Vic. Freeze drying is very expensive, and the cost benefit analysis may not be there for most people, really.
Mhm.
It is a good option, and maybe this is something where, as a community, hey, one person has one, or maybe one person has a couple, and you guys, chip in and go, hey, throw down $20 and here's my produce that I want to freeze dry, and you run through. I don't know.
Yeah. What I've looked at and from other like community members in the area who I've talked to who have one, basically the way that you're going to make sense of getting a freeze dryer is not just using it a whole bunch, but things like renting it out and making sure that you've calculated costs, that you're
Yeah.
making an appropriate amount to rent it out, making freeze dried candies that you sell. So
Yep.
maybe you have some other thing that you're doing that covers the cost of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Vic's right. And he says,
Lucky Charms marshmallows.
yeah,
Yay.
3,000 bucks is a lot for that.
It is.
Don't eat Lucky Charms. It's gonna be my running thing to you and Vic is don't eat whatever. Don't eat the thing.
No Oreos, no
Yep.
Snickers,
Nope.
no Lucky Charms. Golly.
But yeah, if you can find other ways to make money with the thing
Right.
or to make it beneficial to the community, but we generally try to steer people away from the real over exaggeration of fear in prepping to do it
Yeah.
in faith and in decent and like reasonableness.
Mhm.
And $3,000 to be able to freeze dry some stuff so you can save it 30 years, that's a little less sensible than, m you know, being creating a system where other people in the community can use it or being able to save it for 5 to 10 years. But yeah, again, if I use
For me, it's
one.
the nutrient
Yeah.
retaining the nutrients. Like, yeah, it's cool that it's shelf stable for a long time, but
Mhm.
it's retaining the higher nutritional level that's more important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, and that's where, milk, meats, eggs,
Yeah,
things like that
exactly.
make a lot more sense.
Yep. And back to the community thing, maybe you do that in large batches. Maybe you just, you everybody brings their excess eggs and you just set it up and go for a couple days and just make everybody's, eggs for I don't know
Right.
if it works.
Well, and you could, let's say, function stack that with maybe somebody in your community has a large solar electric system that overproduces during the summer.
So you can offset the electrical cost.
Yeah, so now
I
you
like
can
it.
set there's yeah, yep. Or the other thing, and we're gonna talk about freezers in a minute here, though, is that, you can pre-freeze the food with a dehydrator or with a, freeze dryer. So you can pre-freeze it in
Yes.
a standard freezer
Yep.
and actually save quite a bit of electricity and time.
And time.
Yeah.
Huge savings in time. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
And so yeah, go ahead.
Vic's asking about stats on nutrition retention. I don't remember what the exact retention stat was. It was fairly significant. Well, okay, got in relation to other methods of preservation, because if you're boiling something, raising the temperature, you're going to impact the structure of whatever it is, and so it's going to break down. So that's your cannings and some of your other whether it's pressure or water bath. Root cellars are obviously can be good. And get into those. Fermentation is good, but that's for a whole nother reason. But yeah,
Yeah, I think long term freeze drying is going to be where you retain the nutrients, and
yeah,
these are going to be a combination of the macros as well as the um, like the micronutrients as well. Things like volatiles, though, are probably going to be boiled off essentially. So if we're thinking herbs,
no,
like
yeah,
it's like then you're actually probably doing the opposite, where you're removing all the volatiles, which are what actually make herbs potent and useful for us.
Vic's already on it. He says 70 or 97 to 98% best for vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Yep, that
Yep.
sounds about right. Yep.
Cool.
And I would definitely agree with mom that most people are using it for junk food.
Yeah.
I mean, you ain't wrong.
Junk food is where the profit is.
It is. It really is because
Yeah.
it's a novelty.
Well, and we could look at this one other way, I think, as well, where somebody could come in and buy pre-dehydrated food, and honestly, it's not going to be. I don't know if you can justify the ROI, or if there is an ROI to
Sure.
doing it yourself, unless you're trying to do better foods than what you
Yeah.
could buy
Well,
otherwise.
because when we talk about like doing apples to apples comparisons with, us growing our own foods, like if I were to go to a truly organic, farm stand, it's going to be expensive. So that means that my costs to grow my own food is closer to that, or maybe even cheaper than buying from that bougie, you know, high end certified organic whatever, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and also, I suppose if you can get a lot of something and you enough of it that you wanna save it for that long of a period of time.
Right. And that's where I see the value in something like that where you can do large batch. Yeah. Not little one-offs.
Yep. Another thing to think about is, so I had mentioned like pre-freezing.
Yeah.
You can offset when you're doing this. So a
Hmm.
freeze dryer is going to work best inside a home that's conditioned, so there's minimal moisture.
Right.
And if you pre-freeze it, well, let's say if you do that during the summer when your stuff is producing a lot, well, then you're putting that heat into your house in the middle of summer, right?
Right.
If you pre-freeze it and then you let it sit there until the winter, now you can run the freeze dry in your house, let all that heat go into your house, and it actually
Perfect.
becomes yeah, less expensive energy wise.
Hmm. Oh, Vic is on it. Okay. So what we got here? So for freezing, just straight up freezing, 80 to 95%, but the nutrients do degrade with time. That makes sense. Then dehydration, 20 to 50% loss. Sensitive vitamins, heat destroys vitamin C's and B's. Yep. And then canning, what does he got? 40 to 60% loss of sensitive vitamins, high heat, liquid phase causes breakdown. Yep. Yeah. So that's a significant difference in nutrient retention in freeze drying.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's, so you've got your advantages, your long-term storage and higher retention, especially over time,
Yeah.
for freeze drying.
Hmm.
So,
And I mean, like, if you're doing a lot of backpacking,
mhm,
then maybe it makes sense because I mean, like, you could come to my store and you can buy those, prepackaged freeze dried, meal packs, but that gets real expensive real fast.
right.
And, apples to apples, you're probably going to make better food at home and then you freeze dry the leftovers. Well, now you have home cooked meals for, having on the AT or something like that, or running the Pacific Crest or wherever you're
Yeah.
going.
Well, and also if you can rent from somebody in the community, maybe 200 bucks for a week. I don't know
Yeah.
what
Right.
the appropriate amount is, but you can freeze dry all kinds of stuff and return it and not be
Yeah.
out $3,000
Yep. That'd
or
be awesome.
more. Yeah. All right. So I had mentioned freezers, and
Yeah.
I think when you put all this together, you were thinking about specifically, shelf stable.
Yeah.
And I really like freezers just because of the simplicity. And I think sometimes prepper minded people kind of overlook them
Oh,
because they're
I
like,
agree.
oh, if grid's down, then my freezer won't run. Well, a really small, very inexpensive critical load solar
Mhm.
We'll keep that either running indefinitely, or you can get a very small generator to top that battery off periodically,
Oh, yeah.
and you can keep especially a chest freezer running
Yeah, I was gonna say, d get
forever.
a good chest freezer because, you wanna keep that cold down,
Right.
and, yeah, you'd be fine.
Well, and you can even add additional insulation to the chest freezer and do all kinds of things to increase the time it can go without electricity and reduce the amount of effort it takes to cool it down.
Yep. Well, and even just, having it filled up, then you have thermal mass that
Mhm.
retains that, temperature.
Yeah, so going back to the idea of freezing, sometimes we'll freeze things like tomatoes
Okay.
in the summer. We'll
Yeah.
freeze them in baggies, throw them in the freezer, and then in the winter, again, we start boiling them so we can add the humidity back to the house, which we might be doing intentionally anyways,
Right.
add the heat back to the house rather than killing ourselves doing all the canning in the summer. So we offset to the season where we're not working as hard, not harvesting things to do the actual canning of the tomatoes or, whatever else it is.
Yeah.
Or
Anytime where you're okay with, that membrane breaking down and
Mhm,
it, if you're gonna making any sauces, any
exactly.
jams and jellies, freeze it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, if you need it to not go mushy, then
Yeah.
don't freeze it, but,
Right.
and back to the freeze drying, when you do pre-freeze things, you need to pre-freeze them on a sheet individually
Yes.
and
Not a
then
big old
throw them in
clump.
it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a freezer is really helpful and is one of those overlooked things that you with the new solar generators and things, realistically, you could keep one going indefinitely. And
Mhm. Well,
uh
you can get one of those little DC powered ones, for cars and
yeah,
run it direct off solar.
yeah, exactly. Yep. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat. That's a
Yeah, that's
weird
right.
one.
What
Anyways,
what's Vic got? Oh, a 7 cubic chest freezer on his solar setup. Like he is off grid on
yeah.
solar, rocking that thing for $80. Heck yeah, dude.
Awesome. That's a good find. There's a lot of those 12-volt ones that are just like they look like an igloo cooler,
Yeah,
that
right.
they've got built in. They work okay. I wouldn't probably wouldn't want it for long term, but, they work fine.
It works for yeah, for its application.
It's great for little food stands.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if you've
right?
yeah, if you've got a farm stand at the end of your driveway and you need a cooler, they're
Mhm.
awesome for that. So, um, what's next? What's after freezers?
All right. Well, okay. So yeah, so we got through the freeze drying. Yeah, the advantages and disadvantages. Just want to double check that. I didn't want to jump over miss anything.
Sure.
Um, when to use it, maximize shelf life. Yep. For emergencies, when weight matters. That was backpacking, whatever.
Yeah.
Excess garden production. Yep. When not to use it. That was what I really wanted to make sure I didn't skip over. Um, if you need inexpensive food preservation, don't use it. Yeah. If you don't have reliable electricity, don't use it. Because yeah, if you get caught halfway through a cycle and your batteries run out, or you're that's not going to that's not going to be good. It's going to be nasty. Don't Yeah. If you can't finish the cycle, that's not preserved at all. That's worse than
Right.
any small amounts. Yeah, you really want to run like full batches. You don't ever want to run it near empty. You want it to be as filled as you really can get it.
Yeah. And I think they take a decent amount of technical knowledge and the ability to think through problems and figure things out.
Yeah, yeah, they do. I actually looked in to because Harvest Right didn't have any local technicians to maintain their freeze dryers, and so I actually looked into becoming a certified tech because I'm like, hey, I know refrigerant systems. Like, how complicated could that be?
Right. Well, yeah, and the function stack on that is then you get to meet other
Exactly.
people in the area who are thinking like-minded. Yeah, that's cool. That's an interesting idea.
All right, so yeah, we got in through freezing, so dehydrating. This okay, growing up, I think we probably, and mom correct me if I'm wrong. Like I know we canned a lot, but like we dehydrated a lot. I love dehydrating, and I got a shout out to one of my customers, Jason. He brought in, it was delicious. They were just like half-inch slabs of watermelon that he threw in the dehydrator, and they rendered down to like paper thin just about, but all of the flavor just gets concentrated into this little wafer, and it was amazing. Oh my goodness. So
Cool.
if you have a dehydrator, or
Yeah.
even, well, okay, similarly to the doing the freeze dryer in the off season, you can throw things in your oven, and you can dehydrate in your oven, but then you're releasing all that heat into your house, probably suboptimal in the summertime.
Yeah, and the air exchange into an oven is minimal as well.
Yep.
And so the actual level of dryness that you get is it's gonna be hard to get to what you want
Yeah, right. Yeah,
without
because you don't
using
have the
more heat.
airflow through it.
Right.
Yup. Yeah, because I mean, like, growing up, we would make, like, an apricot puree and spread it out. Tried blend times, yes. Yes, mom. And make this apricot leather, or do just, like, half apricot pieces, or, oh, Vic wants, I mean, Vic, you could probably just throw things out on your patio, and they would end up being completely dry in, like, an afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, there's an obvious problem here though, which is when you're dehydrating, you wanna avoid UV.
Yeah, right.
So and heat, you don't actually wanna
Yeah,
heat
you
them
actually
that much.
don't.
Yeah.
You want that slow removal of moisture, not, yeah, because you're trying to get those, down to like 5 to 20%. Not completely. It's not like, freeze dry, which is like 95% to 99% water removal. So, but for like herbs, for fruits, jerky, obviously that's the one that most everyone knows. Fruit leathers, same thing. It works fantastic. It's super simple, usually really inexpensive. You can go on Amazon and buy one for like $60, a multi-rack little, Vivor or whatever. Like, they're really pretty solid. It's easy to, like, if you want more, get another unit, set it on, make sure your circuit is adequate for the amperage, but you know, you can run multiple.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely can, and the other thing to say there is, for the most part, those inexpensive dehydrators, because they're so simple, they're pretty much all the same
Yeah.
on one level. There is the Excalibur dehydrator, which is
Oh
kinda
yeah.
considered the standard for
The bee's knees.
dehydrators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I would basically say either get like like you said, a Vivor or some kind of basic one that's really inexpensive, or shell out the extra cash for the Excalibur, but I wouldn't go with an expensive one that's not well known like that.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Cause you're not actually really probably getting anything extra for that, because,
No.
it's just removing moisture. That's all it's doing.
Right.
It's like the little room heaters. Like, oh yeah, you can spend a lot of money, but like at the end of the day, it's an oil basin that has an electrode in it that heats up, like, and they're all rated exactly 1500 watts because that's the legal limit. Like,
Right.
they're all the same.
Yeah.
Get the cheap one.
Now I didn't see in your notes anywhere, maybe I missed it,
Mm.
but you can make solar dehydrators as well.
I didn't put that in there, but
Yeah.
yes, you can. I did that in Cub Scouts, and it works.
Mhm.
It's not uh consistent
Well,
necessarily.
you can make really nice ones that are consistent. So they have
Yes, you
a
can.
solar collector, and then you can, for nerds like you and I, you could automate it with something like an Arduino, or even
Yep.
just a small controller and a tiny solar panel.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I've got friends that have solar kilns for drying out wood, and it's
mhm.
exactly the same principle of, airflow through, and mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, increase the temperature and move airflow or air through it, and it'll pull the moisture out. So yeah, you wanna make sure not to cook it, but you can little tiny controllers that are very inexpensive with a computer fan and a small solar panel will get you a long ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Um, so the disadvantages though are usually the shelf life isn't as long, and I do remember, being so excited to go have some, apricot leather, opening it up, and just it's covered in mold because, you know, it, because you're not getting it down to zero humidity. And so there is stuff that's still alive and a place for bacteria to grow, unfortunately. So shorter shelf life, the texture changes permanently. Um, Now, to be fair, freeze drying can definitely impact texture as well, depending on what food you're talking about. Eggs, reconstituted eggs, worked really quite well. Mashed potatoes worked really good. Anything that's already in a either puree or whipped state, it works really well. Meats are a little bit weird, um, but yeah,
Yeah, some of them when you cook them, they kinda come back, but
kind of.
yeah, it's not exactly.
Right. And then yeah, yes, you're going to lose some nutrients, like we saw with, Vic brought up the numbers. Though not horrible. Still functional, useful. It's a good method of preserving it. And maybe you dehydrate it, then you throw it in a mason jar with an oxygen absorber or something to prolong that a little bit further.
Yeah, if you use one of those mason jar vacuums with
Yeah.
a oxygen absorber, depending on the food, it may make it longer, but I think you're always gonna run into issues with, fungus or
Yep.
bacteria or other things eventually on just generally dehydrated foods.
Hmm. And yeah, at some point, like there are some things that aren't going to dehydrate, and that's where the other methods come in. So that's okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know if would biltong be considered a dehydrated food? It's like kind
I mean,
of, but it's
kind of.
also processed a little differently.
You're right. That's funny.
So, yeah, I don't know enough about it other than I like it and it tastes good.
Right. That's funny. So to avoid dehydrating, any high fat foods, soft
Mhm.
dairies, anything that you want to be shelf stable for a long period of time, or any foods requiring refrigeration after drying, obviously, because that's not really helping you much. So
Yeah, I think to me the dehydrator is there's a handful of things where it really does a good job um, for longer storage, and to me that's largely herbs,
mm-hmm.
which I'm gonna replace by the next season anyway. So they're
Oh
never gonna
yeah,
sit on the shelf
for
for
more than
more than a year.
not even that, because I mean, if you're harvesting, it's only the time between the harvest and next grow season. So yeah, it's really shouldn't be.
Yeah, but I like it especially for that or for treats and things that are gonna be eaten fairly quickly after they're
Right.
made.
Yeah. And Vic brings up a completely valid point, and I completely didn't even think about it. Curing and smoking.
Mhm.
Didn't even. You are
Yeah.
correct, sir.
Along those lines,
Yeah.
I've worked on several homesteads, like old homesteads that have had
Smokehouse?
smokehouses.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
I looked at we almost bought it too. It had a Civil War general store, or the remnants of, and then beside it was like the second oldest smokehouse in Tennessee,
Oh,
still
interesting.
on property. Yeah, it was a lot of work, and we did not, because it was a lot of work. But it would have been cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But yes, we're not well prepared to talk about that, but thank you, Vic, for throwing that at us. But yeah, smoking and curing, there's all kinds of things you can do. And that really was how meats were preserved historically.
Yep. Salt cured, and or yeah. I mean, you had like things like pemmican, that was a
Mhm,
little bit different, but yeah, aside from that, everything was smoked. I mean, everything. Like, I mean, gosh, we have even the stories from like Laura Ingalls, Pa setting up the smoker was like first thing, because
mhm,
as soon as they butchered something, like, we got to cure it. Can't eat it all in one day.
right. Yeah, I mean, even if you're kinda doing the meat on the hoof thing,
Right.
you've you're not going to eat that entire, I don't know, goat or whatever it is tomorrow.
Not long
So you
ago.
need,
No.
yeah, you need
Yep.
to you need to save it somehow and keep it on property and ready, in a way that it's still edible. So that's, yeah, smoking and curing, salt curing was huge.
Yep. It was.
Something, yeah, something we've basically entirely lost.
Yeah. Unfortunately, just about. All right. So the next one is pressure canning. So this is the wonderful one where everyone's terrified that everything's going to explode, and we have all the horror stories of my great aunt Sally blew the top off of it and embedded it in the ceiling. And yes, that did happen. Like, yeah, because I mean, like, so you're reaching temperatures of north of 240, 250 degrees. That's well beyond the boiling point. And the only way you can do it is by having high pressure. Well,
Right.
you just created a little bomb in but that's the wonderful thing about, modern technology is they've gotten really smart. Like they're the new pressure canners are really clever and they don't fail like the old ones used to.
Yeah, especially as you're getting like these electric pressure canners that don't
They
even
can
have to go
regulate
on the stove.
temperature and yes.
Mhm. Those tend to be very safe.
Hmm.
If you've got the old ones, you can have your pressure meter. You can have that all tested by, I think if you just go into your extension office, they will test your pressure canner
Oh,
equipment.
that's clever.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
so
Awesome.
I would do that at least once every year before you start
Before the
using
season.
it. If you're
Yeah.
yeah, if you're using the old stuff. So yeah, but pressure canning, the reason that it's useful is because since it is under pressure, now you can raise the temperature
Right.
beyond what you normally would.
Exactly. And that's the key is you're not going to be able to actually kill bacterium until you can get up to those higher temperatures. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and that's useful when you've got low acid foods. So
exactly.
when you're doing when you're canning, even if it's pressure canning, but especially water bath canning, you need to be very careful to follow modern recipes
Hmm.
because you can get botulism,
Yep.
which is potentially deadly, um, if you don't have high enough acid in your food.
Right.
And so following the instructions is really important. Whereas with pressure canning, you can can things like meats or other things that you couldn't water bath can or wouldn't be safe to.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Because yeah, you can once you reach those temperatures, it kills everything. I mean, I used to work on steam sterilizers. It was the same thing. Like you just have to get that high enough pressure where it kills everything. Like it won't live through that. Cool. Works.
Yep. Yeah, if so what what do you think the best uses for pressure canning is?
So that's where you're going to do all of your meats. So poultry and fish, a lot of your vegetables that aren't like your tomatoes and that things that are naturally higher acidity. Um, Dry beans, soups, stews, broths, things like that, where it's your sweets and savories.
Yeah, I think one of the other things I've heard this used for is, let's say you've got an old rooster that you took out, or a laying hen that you've had to butcher.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it can actually be really great for meats that would otherwise be a bit tough.
sure,
Um, obviously, I wouldn't do this with a brisket, but the idea of a brisket, right, is you're cooking it in such a way that it gets soft because it's actually a pretty hard piece of meat.
yeah,
And it's kind of the same principle here, but you're able to get the temperature up higher. And so the meats and sinew and things like that are in the meat that might otherwise not be real appealing, like on an old rooster or old hen, are going to break down dramatically more and get a lot softer. And so you can kind of function, you can stack those layers of benefits
yeah, right,
together if you're thinking it through.
absolutely. Uh oh, Vic is going rebel. Old ways rebels still water bath if you. Oh, okay. If you do it right, yes, it is a high risk thing, and the best way is to go with, modern recipes, just because it's going to work, it's going to be okay.
Yep.
But
Yeah, just because grandma's, recipe that she always used for canning never gave anybody any issues doesn't mean
right,
it couldn't.
right.
And I'm not much for, following modern rules. I think people know that at this point.
Yeah, right.
But modern recipes for canning is pretty important. The other thing to say is canning isn't that old.
No, it really isn't.
Like we think of canning as like going back to the old ways, but it's not.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, canning is last what 200-year
Yep.
ish invention.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
because well, we
more.
had to have sealable glass containers that with consistent rims, so that we could actually seal against them. We had to
Mhm.
be able to produce the types of temperatures and sustained temperatures for duration. That Yeah, we just didn't have that capability for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I think the consistency in glass and then lids that would seal were
Right.
probably the big things needed there. Getting glass that wouldn't break under those conditions.
Yep.
And so canning is really a pretty new practice, and there are a lot of things that weren't worked out early on that have
Hmm.
been worked out now.
Yep. Absolutely. And what's nice is like okay, so now you've canned something, like it's gonna be good for, like, I mean, depending on what you're canning, but like the next 1 to 5 years, like that's really awesome to be able to just like throw it on the shelf and it's good. It's there.
Yeah. The thing I would say about canning that people maybe aren't thinking through a whole lot is they'll can things and put them on the shelf and kind of like forget about them.
Oh,
And you really need a first in, first out.
date
Um,
your stuff.
yeah, date your stuff, but then get some type of practice where
Yes.
either you've got shelves that are open from both sides, so load the new stuff on the backside
Right.
and pull the older stuff to use it,
Hmm.
or you know left to right on the shelf or whatever it is.
Right.
Figure out a practice to uh, organize things, kind of like I don't know if you've ever seen those egg holders where the eggs kind of roll down
They
or
roll
they're in a
down. Yep.
spiral.
Yeah.
It's the same idea where you're putting the new stuff where it's going to get grabbed last
Hmm.
so that nothing ever goes bad.
Right. Well, and that's a big thing with any of the preparedness is, um you want to have a first in first out system so that you're turning over your inventory. You don't have anything sitting on the shelf for 20 years. Um unless it's freeze dried. Um and you're actually eating your food, so
Mhm.
that when disaster hits, you're not shocking your system by introducing all different weird new foods that you're not used to eating. No, these are just my normal foods, I'm just continuing to eat them.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think canning can be great, but I think it's important to understand the caveats to it, some of the disadvantages.
Sure.
Do you want to run through some of the disadvantages of canning?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I just hit the advantages. Yeah, we don't have to freeze things, which
Mhm.
so that's a lot less time and electricity potentially. It's ready to eat all the time. Like you just pop that sucker, and you can honestly just eat it, but you just heat it up and it's gone. And like, um, if you have the opportunity to buy bulk, whatever, because hey, look, it's on sale. It's near the end of its life or whatever. It's best if used by date, and you can buy 50 pounds of whatever and just can it, and it's good
Mhm.
for then you're getting your meals for cheap for the next 1 to 5 years. Sweet. Right.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, there's a bit of a learning curve. Like i I would not be necessarily super comfortable doing it on my own. I'd have my mom come down like, hey, can you walk me through this? Because it's been a while.
It sounds like a class at the store kind of
Hey, there
opportunity.
you go. Hey, mom.
Yeah.
um so some of the stuff requires some equipment, so getting especially pressure canner like that, and that may be something that you might want to get a better one versus a not so good one, because you don't want it to explode. um
Right. A few
yeah,
modern safety mechanisms is it's nice to have.
exactly. It's like modern water heaters. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
um and just know what you're getting into. Like, it is going to it is going to change the texture of your food. You're not going to be, your green beans aren't going to taste or feel the same when they come out as they did when they went in. So I
And
think
that's not
everybody probably
always a
knows that.
bad thing.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
But yeah, and especially with pressure canning, you're gonna really soften things. That's where we were talking about
Hmm.
meats. And
Yeah.
if you get that temperature up high enough, some of the connective tissue will start to break down a bit. And
Right.
some meats that otherwise might not be very appealing could actually be really, really delicious in this
Yep.
case.
And the same thing for vegetables. I mean, like asparagus is a fairly fibrous thing. Well, that may be nice to break down a little bit and soften it up. That's cool.
Sure.
Was a comment from Tanya. Make sure you check your lids when you're auditing your shelves. Yes, that absolutely needs to go hand in hand with your first in first out system. Is constantly evaluating when you go in there to pick your food for the evening. Tap, do something. Audit the can lids that are directly around whatever you're grabbing for dinner, just because you'll
Yeah.
hear it. You'll and then and check the top line. Make sure it is not discolored. There's nothing weird floating on top. Yeah, that's a
Yeah. If that lid clicks when you push on it,
ain't
the
good.
seal's bad.
Yeah, something went wrong.
Yeah, that is now compost material.
That is yes. Yeah, don't give it to the critters. That goes straight into the compost. Not
Yep.
even, yeah.
Maybe black soldier flies, maybe.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. So yeah, so if you got livestock and you're doing huge quantities, then that's a good time to can stuff, because you can just dice everything up and just throw it in cans. Away you go. If you're hunting, or same thing, you're having to process an elk where you've got 300 pounds of meat to deal with. Canning might be an option. That's kind of a bad use for elk. Okay, that was a bad example. Maybe canned bear is okay. If you get the opportunity to
I've
buy in
never
bulk.
canned bear, but
Okay, it
I'll
can be
take your word for it.
Ali. Power outages. If you're living in an area that you have power outages fairly often, then this would be maybe a good thing to have, where you don't have to worry about reconstituting it. You don't have to, you don't want to get into your freezer because the power's out. You want to keep that cold in. Well, popping the lid off of a can is not going to impact that. So, having canned foods is great for if you live somewhere where electricity is not as stable. Yeah, don't invent your own recipes. That that
No.
that gets dicey. It's high risk, low reward. Like,
Right. Yep. So, with water bath canning, that's
yeah,
where you remove the danger of an exploding pressure cooker, but
but you introduce another issue
right.
potentially.
Yeah, and that's where especially don't make up recipes when you're water bath canning.
Right, because yeah, you're only be able to get to 212 degrees dependent on your elevation, but 212 degrees is where water boils. Well, that's as hot as you're going to get. That's not hot enough to kill botulism. It ain't. So we need something else to deal with to prevent that, and that's where our high acidity comes into play. We want to have stuff that has some something acrid in there to be able to handle that. So that's where your jams and jellies and fruit preserves and pickles, um, fruit juices, properly acidified tomatoes, yeah, and follow good known recipes.
Yep. Yeah, not grandma's recipe on the water bath canning for sure.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is that you need to make sure that that's the large caveat in water bath canning is you need to absolutely make sure that your recipe that you're using is high enough acidity to be safe.
Mhm. Yep. And it's nice because water bath is really low entry bar. Like come to the shop. I've got a whole bunch of different jars because that was one of the things that we played with it. We bought a whole bunch. They didn't sell real well. So please come and buy me out. Um, and now you're good. Like you've got to have some kind of a large pot that you can put those in water, but like, and that you're good to go. I mean, like that's really, really low. It's great for beginners to start if you've never done any kind of food preservation. that's a pretty good way to dip your toe into food preservation.
Yeah. Well, and jellies and jams and things are a lot of fun, especially
Yeah.
when you've got a fruit harvest, whether it's yours or, maybe you know somebody you've made connections with a farmer at the farmer's market,
Yeah.
um,
Right.
and they've got a whole bunch of excess for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if they've got some stuff that they ain't pretty, they're damaged, they're bruised or whatever, like, hey, jams and jellies. Awesome.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
Well, and that was kind of our original thought because we had contemplated going back to freeze drying. We had contemplated offering that as a service to the community of having freeze drying so that, let's go to the farmers markets. Hey, all of these things that didn't sell, they may not last till next farmers market. You can bring them to me and I can freeze dry them for you. And then you have a secondary thing that you can offer. You can offer your fresh whatever alongside your freeze dried something.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ratha says, pickling is a method of preserving too. So a lot
Yes,
of
it
people
is.
lump pickling with canning.
But it really isn't.
Mm,
It is
and
its own.
it is its own thing, and I actually prefer, lacto-fermented
Mm,
pickle,
mhm,
and you can lacto-ferment just about any of your fruit or your vegetables. So,
right.
green beans, carrots, the standard cucumber. Um, One of my favorites actually is sweet peppers. So,
Ooh,
lacto-fermented sweet peppers are really tasty.
ooh. Well, and that changes the taste and texture in a different way.
Mhm.
So yeah. Can you
It
explain what what that change is?
Yeah, so it makes it's somehow a combination of softer and crunchier at the same time. So if you think of a pickle and how it's kind of it's bendy, but at the same time it has that snap or that kind of crunch when you bite it.
Right,
You're doing the same thing, but to like say carrots, where it's easier to bite through, but it still has that kind of crunchy feel. And then
right.
you've got the taste that you can put into it. So you've got vinegar is part of it, salt, and generally speaking, garlic are what you put into this thing. And then you can add dill if you want, or you can use other methods or other herbs. So I've used cilantro or coriander, which is the seed of cilantro,
Yeah.
and that's been really good.
Oh yeah.
And so those all go in, and I'm describing this generally. Don't This isn't a recipe. You do actually need a recipe with this, but
Yes.
those basically go in this brine, and the brine then you'd usually put some type of airlock on it, and then it just sits out like on a shelf in, you know, 68 to 74 degrees, whatever your house is probably fine. And it ferments for a few days to a couple of weeks, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then you've got a probiotic pickle of whatever vegetable you put in there.
Mhm. Great for gut health.
Yes, very good for gut health, and you can throw that in the fridge and it'll last a very long time.
Mhm.
I don't know about leaving it on the shelf. I haven't really dug into that much.
Probably
But
doesn't last long enough.
yeah. I
Leave
mean,
it all
it's
gone.
one of those things that's just fun to eat quickly, but it'll save your cucumbers a lot longer than if you don't do anything to them.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Yep. So, for water bath cannon, there is a limited, number of foods that you can water bath can because you're not getting those temperatures. So, something to be noted. And you're gonna have a shorter, um, time where that is, useful on the shelf. Um, so and it does soften the texture, which, like we said, isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's perfect. So if you do have fruit trees, if you have berries, if you like jams, if you've got a whole bunch of cucumbers and you want to do pickles, get into canning, get into water bath canning because it's like I said, it's a really easy one to learn on.
Mhm. Yep, for sure.
Just don't try to do meat or green beans or corn or potatoes or
Jared, do you happen to
no
have a
seafood.
book on this in your shop?
I do. I do have a book on this. I should have brought
Yeah.
it down, darn it.
So instead of going and looking up recipes on the interwebs, you could buy a book from Jared.
I have a book on uh I'm trying to think if I don't think I have the freeze drying book anymore. I need to order that one. I've got one on dehydrating. I've got one on canning. I've got one on smoking. Nope, that one sold out. I'll get that one ordered. Yeah, I've got several books on those. Yes.
Nice. All right.
All right.
So was there anything else you wanted to cover in water bath canning?
I think we're good. I think we covered all of that.
Cool. So the next segment you had here was root cellars.
Yay.
Yeah,
Resellers are cool. Get it?
they are. And I have actually never seen somebody use one in real life for what they're intended for.
I know, right? You go into it and it's filled with cans, right?
Exactly.
You're like,
Yeah.
and you missed the point.
And a chair.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think one of the issues is here in Tennessee, unless you really truly have a fully soil covered root cellar
Right.
with a proper door on it and things,
Mm.
you get a lot of it, it still warms up more
I was like,
than you
you're going
want
to
it
end up
to.
with probably two doors. You're going to have an entryway tunnel with, that's going to be, cool. And then at the back, you'll have a secondary chamber to really isolate it. Cause otherwise, yeah, no, you're not going to get anywhere near the temperatures and you in order how dark you want it to be.
Mhm.
It's yeah. And then
Yep.
you got to manage airflow and all that.
So for one client that I work with, we've converted hers. I ran electricity to it, and we
Yeah.
converted it into a year-round hydroponic greens growing space
Okay.
and wine cellar
Ha. Cool. That works.
and seed starting. Um,
Nice.
because you've got the consistent temperatures.
Yep.
So
Ah,
yeah,
Vic got it. Yes, it was cool. I'm a
at least
dork. I know.
somebody did.
Yeah, I knew Vic. He's got my back.
Yep.
So what is a root cellar anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a space dug into the ground, generally a hillside, that is underground, so it keeps consistent humidity and temperatures, ideally,
Hmm.
um, so that throughout the year you don't have it getting overly hot or overly cold.
And so, I mean, and historically, super awesome because all you were able to throw all of your potatoes and carrots and beets and turnips down there and they wouldn't try to sprout on you because like I've got a bunch of potatoes and onions that just like love to just become new plants in my kitchen. I just throw them out in the garden and plant them, but that way they don't do that. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of management that we've lost. Like root
Mm,
cellars, I'm sure there's books and things on them that would help demystify some of this, but the other thing is you can get mice and things in there, and just
yep.
with a lot of our modern technology, root cellars have become less useful.
Yeah, I won't say obsolete, but almost
Mhm.
unnecessary, I guess.
Yeah, so the extra space for canning or canned goods that are being kept at reasonable temperatures and without light, it's not a terrible use
Nope.
for something you have, and then, um, I also like to think of them as excellent storm shelters too, so
Yeah, I mean, gosh, if you're that far underground that it's stable, yeah, no, it'll be solid. You're good.
yeah, you'll survive an F5 just fine.
Oh yeah, it'll
Yeah.
just right over the top. Well, because I mean that's physically the structure. I mean, like
Mhm.
you're even if you did above ground and you buried it, you're still going to create a mound. Well,
Right.
winds just roll over mounds. They don't, if you don't have sharp edges to catch on, then it's yeah, you'll be fine.
Exactly, yeah, there's nothing for the wind to catch and lift, and
Hmm.
so it
Which is
might
usually
blow a
where
little bit.
damages is eaves getting lifted and roofs pulling up or whatever.
Yep, yeah, so you've basically got nothing for it to grab onto. You might lose a little bit of soil off the top, and that's about it.
Right. Yep. So yeah, so if you got, potatoes and carrots and beets and turnips and cabbage and apples, um, stored separately. I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't remember if it's apples that mess with potatoes or potatoes that mess with apples. I don't remember which. One of them causes one of them to do something.
Mhm.
I don't remember what it was. I think
Yeah,
rot.
there's compounds in various different things that
Yeah,
can
they off
interact with each
gas,
other.
yeah, and they cause the other ones to mess. So even there, it's not a perfect system. Always caveats, always
Yep.
exceptions.
Yeah,
But
I
then
mean, so the
no
advantage
electricity though. I mean, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, exactly. The advantage is no electricity. You've got low operating costs once it's installed.
Yeah, right. Or maybe you bought a place. Maybe it already had one. Maybe
Right.
that'd be cool.
Yep. In every case I've ever seen, if somebody's bought a property that had a root cellar on it, it needed work before it was gonna be ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, being able to get fresh food in the winter, if it's stored properly and lasts that long,
Hmm.
that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, and back in the day, it would have been a really big deal. Before we had refrigerating systems and reliable canning, or if you may not have been able to get glass jars out here because they hadn't made them out here yet. Then yeah, I would have definitely done a root cellar because what else am I going to do? I'm going to smoke everything I can, and everything else goes in the root cellar.
Right. Yeah, I think in some ways the obsoleting of root cellars is it's a viable or it's a true thing in that, I think we have enough technology and enough availability, at least when things aren't going poorly, that the
Yeah.
root cellar isn't really necessary for its original intended purpose.
Sure, sure. I mean, it's a good thing to know about
Mhm.
because maybe it becomes something where you might want to think about that. Ah, thank you, Vic. Apples off gas prematurely ripening other vegetables. I knew there was something that was off gassing something.
Interesting.
So, thank you.
Vic's over there on the Googles
I
helping
know
us
he's
out, or he's
he's doing
or
all
he's
the,
just he's
he's just
just got a mind for all this stuff, and he should be running this podcast.
he should. We need to have him back on again.
Yeah, we should do that.
We should check in with his homestead, get an update.
Awesome. I was at a festival, Kentucky Sustainable Living, over
Yeah,
the weekend,
yeah. How'd
and
that go?
it went well.
Yay!
I met a guy from he runs Better Built Dogs, and
What?
like a dog training service.
Oh,
But
cool.
it's,
So weird.
I think he does some breeding and things as well, but it's specifically for protection dogs.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, and just announcing it now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm planning on having him on the podcast. He said he'd be happy to, so we just have to find a date that works.
Right on.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I think, even though he's doing really advanced stuff with dogs,
Yeah,
having somebody like that who can help people understand, how a dog's thinking and how to correct a dog and how to get them
sure.
to be, a better dog. I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know I just want to shoot my dog, but that's because my dog's useless.
All right.
Uh,
So was there anything else on root cellars you wanted to kind of
no, I
look
think
at, talk about?
we hit that one pretty good.
All right. So the next one is fermentation.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about this in pickling or lacto
Mhm.
fermentation for pickling. What are some of the other fermentation options?
So, like, common things that you may have already had that were fermented is sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, kefir, pickles, kombucha. Those are all things that are go through a fermentation process, which is basically microbes converting sugars into acids, which preserve it and provide a different flavor, um, like it or not. Um, yes, the fermentation is a wonderful thing. I love it.
Yes, I believe Sandor Katz wrote several books on wild fermentation, as he
Yeah,
calls it. And so the concept of like what I was talking about earlier, where you've got lacto fermented pickles,
yeah,
those ferment from the bacteria that's already on them,
sure.
and obviously, the better the bacterial strains in your garden, the better results you'll get.
Yeah.
But some of these are going to be coming from what's called a SCOBY,
Mm,
or some type of like with kefir, kombucha, those specifically have um, a SCOBY or a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast
Mhm.
that are already they were developed sometime thousands of years ago, or somebody found them.
Right.
Most I don't think anybody knows where like kefir grains, whether dairy or water kefir
Right.
or kombucha, I don't think anybody actually knows where they originated from.
Probably not at this point.
Yeah, and they've just been carried down for
Millennia.
generation upon generation. Yeah. Yeah, I think kefir was believed to have been found somewhere in the Caucasus region that, or at least
Wow.
that's the best guess that anybody has.
Right. But I mean,
So,
think about it, like, back then, what were your methods of preserving foods? Like, there was really limited methodology for preservation, and fermentation would have been an important aspect of preserving your foods for later use.
yeah. So Vic says, Sandor Katz lives near us, Woodbury maybe.
Really?
Yeah, so he was at Nicole Sauce had him out at her spring workshop.
Oh, nice.
And it was like I had to leave like 10 minutes after he got there because I had
Oh,
another thing to be at, but I was pretty disappointed. I wanted to see his presentations.
yeah.
But yeah, he's kind of like, I think in many ways considered the leading expert
He's the
on
guru,
yeah, the guru on wild fermentation.
right?
Um, which that's what so if we're talking sauerkraut, I believe kimchi as well, but like you're bringing in stuff from the environment
Yeah.
as opposed to having a specific SCOBY or bacteria that you're bringing from a previous
Mhm.
system.
Yeah, so there really is kind of that yeah, it's 2 different kinds of fermentation, but yes.
Hmm.
But same process, same kind of advantages. So yeah, you're adding flavor, whether you like it or not. There's you're adding in flavor. You are retaining many nutrients and or adding potential nutrients to it. You're creating really beneficial acids, and there really is very little infrastructure necessary. You don't have to buy a bunch of equipment to make your own.
Yeah. Another huge advantage here is that there's a lot of things that our bodies don't process well,
Hmm.
especially long chain proteins. So this is
Yep.
where things like sourdough, which I know is a little bit different type of fermentation than we're talking about, but
Right.
the gluten is a generic uh, definition or a generic protein because
Yeah.
there's a lot of different glutens. But it's a very long chain protein, and fermenting it beforehand starts breaking the chains of that protein and making it more digestible or more available for
Hmm.
our body for nutrient. And that's true with cooking or fermentation, is that both things actually help break down some of the things that keep our body from fully digesting and using those things.
Hmm. Absolutely. But I mean,
Vic says, "How can you be forget?" Well, we just didn't get there yet, Vic.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I don't remember if it's like a documentary or maybe even a book, but it's something like How Beer Saved England or something like that.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
yeah, and somebody it actually was figured out, I think, during one of the major outbreaks where huge numbers of people died,
Mm,
that there's all these guys who were drinking exclusively beer and they
right?
weren't getting sick. And
Yeah,
what
waterborne illnesses don't spread through.
yeah, if you boil the water first and then you ferment it into beer,
Hmm.
that waterborne illness is
Well,
gone.
even when we go back to ancient Egypt, the vast majority of their caloric intake was through grained alcohol. It was through beer, or their version of. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about kombucha and
Hmm.
kefir.
Yeah.
Both of those, whether it's water kefir or milk kefir, both of those are creating a drink.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, fermented beverages are extremely beneficial, and have been part of basically every culture, and all of the most long-lived cultures that we know of
Yep.
have fermented beverages of some sort.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I mean, there are disadvantages, obviously. The limited shelf life, unless you have refrigerated for some of these. Um, Requires attention to cleanliness, proper salt concentrations, and the flavor. Not everyone likes the flavors, and that's fine. But
Yeah, it's a bit of an acquired taste, but once you have it, it's
right,
actually one of those things you really crave.
sure.
All right. So, anything else you want to talk about as far as fermentation is concerned?
Just anyway, that obviously it's not going to be something that's going to be for long term emergency food stores. Where that one is really for short term for health. Honestly,
Yep.
it's not for emergency uses.
Make it and use it.
Yep, yep,
But yeah,
yep,
it will last a little longer. I mean, because it's fermented, it
yep.
means it doesn't have the material in it for the bad stuff to get in. And so it will last a little longer as a fermented thing than it would if you just left it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a pickle obviously is going to last longer than a cucumber. Yeah.
Right. Um, so do you want to kind of intro us or tell us a little bit about the concept of like the long-term food storage mistakes that are common that people make?
Yeah. So, and you actually in your you mentioned somebody who had found a um oh my brain had converted their um
Root cellar?
root cellar. Thank
Yeah.
you. Goodness sakes. And it's usually that can actually cause problems is because you stored something in a root cellar, but it wasn't as dry as it needed to be, or it wasn't as cold as it needed to be. So maintaining proper temperature, proper humidity is one that I see it a lot. I'll talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, I've got buckets and buckets of those, freeze dried meals. I'm like, oh, cool, awesome. Where do you keep them? Oh,
Mhm.
they're in the garage. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, that's a hot box.
That's really bad for it. Like really, really bad. They really want to be like if you have a basement, put it in your basement.
Mhm.
It wants to maintain as close to normal temperatures as it can. Moisture. We live in the South. People, don't think about what moisture does to stuff. Like if you've got, like, oh, well, I've got 50-pound bags of rice and beans in my basement. Okay, cool. What's your nominal, humidity in your basement? Because I know mine sits about 60% humidity if I don't run a dehumidifier like 24/7.
Right.
Things grow. So
Yeah.
like you can't ignore moisture on food preservation. Like that's yeah.
Right. Well, and the root cellar that I was talking about that we converted, it was flooding. So every time it rained
Oh yeah.
hard,
Right.
the water level would rise too much. So part of putting the electric in there was to, pump the water out to be able to run a fan, things like
Sure.
that. And we just realized, you know what? We can't keep things
Be safe,
consistent
mama.
enough.
Love you.
All
Okay.
right. Good night. Thanks for being here.
Did that storm hit you?
No, I just hear a little bit of rumbling.
Okay. I'll say it was like the strip that went right between like you and above me, but like heading straight towards her.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, a lot of the stuff misses us somehow.
Funny.
Yep. Um, but yeah, we realized that we couldn't keep conditions consistent enough for root cellar type stuff.
Exactly. And that's a lot of food preservation is consistent humidity is consistent, temperatures consistent, whatever.
Mhm.
Oxygen. Like yeah, some things you don't need to worry about oxygen using an oxygen absorber. Some things you do. Somebody was talking about like, oh, well, I threw a oxygen absorber in and a desiccant. Like those two don't necessarily mix nicely.
Right.
Don't do that. Like
Yeah, they may not play nice.
yeah, don't try don't be no don't mix things together like that. Um buying foods that your family doesn't eat. And we've talked about that. It's like, preserve what you actually eat. Don't be storing. I'm all for, like, I've got, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds of just plain old white rice, whatever. But I try to use rice at least monthly. We'll do, like, I'll do a sushi night where I'll make my own, fake sushi. I'll mix up some tuna, or we'll go and get some salmon fillets or something like that, and make my own sushi. It's fun.
Mhm.
But or we'll make Mexican rice, and we'll bring the rice in for that, or whatever. Like, don't store a whole bunch of something, like, oh, when the apocalypse hits, like, don't do that. Just store your food.
Right. Unless it's like, I'm gonna give this to my, my neighbors who come banging on my door because,
Right.
here's
Here's
your rice and beans, get out of here.
go away. Yeah, right.
You should have prepared.
Right. Um, Failing to rotate. And we talked about having a first in, first out system. And there's some really cool ones. I saw someone, they lived in an apartment, and so they didn't have a lot of space to store food. And so the dude had made these tracks in the wall that you could put the cans, and they dropped down, and then kicked forward, so you could pull the oldest one off the bottom, and you
Mhm.
just filled it straight up. And it only, it only stuck that far proud of the wall because it was just the thickness of a can.
Right.
Um, and it was like 10, 12 feet long. And so he had, like, just dozens and dozens. And it was like an upper section and a lower section. It was awesome. I'm like, dude, you've got a lot of storage, and you only lost just a little bit. It was in a walkway. It
Mhm.
wasn't even like, it was like unused space anyway. Like, that's brilliant. So, like, there's definite solutions. You don't have to get super, and there's some expensive solutions, like first in, first out little track things for cans. They're $70 for a rack. I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't need to pay $70 to store your Campbell's,
Exactly. Yeah.
which I don't recommend as well. Don't eat that.
I knew you were doing that. I knew it. Waiting for it.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
Campbell's is terrible.
It really,
They
truly.
just recently had, it's like VP of sales or somebody real, or CEO or
That they would
somebody
never
really high up.
let their family eat their. Like,
Yeah,
I don't trust that then.
it's
Like,
kind of like Steve Jobs saying he would never let his daughter use an iPad.
right? Like, ah, goodness. Labeling. Don't forget to label your content. What is in this, especially if you're going to do your own canning. What is it? Because in you might look at that and go, oh yeah, of course I'm gonna remember what that is. Not in 2 years, you're not. I
No,
guarantee it. Probably not in
not,
6 months.
not when all the color goes away.
Yeah, exactly. Because it'll get bleached out. It's just this blob. You're like, we're having mystery something tonight.
And then
So
you won't eat it, and then it'll go to waste.
yeah, right. And that negates the entire point of the whole system is, so yes, label things, put dates on things. Um, don't don't only have one method of preserving food. Don't just do cans. Don't just do freeze dried. Don't just do freezer. Don't like diversify your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, the more things that you're doing, well, I take that back. It's not the more things, it's just enough things. Like,
Yeah.
you also probably shouldn't be doing everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, don't go out and buy a freeze dryer and a pressure canner, and like, you don't need to do that, but
Mhm.
don't just rely on the one system.
Yeah, and learn one at a time. I mean, we all know how a freezer works. You throw things in the freezer and it freezes. That's pretty simple.
I like that.
So, yeah, maybe maybe buy your high quality pressure canner, learn that, figure that out, do really well at it before you move on to, I don't know, your dehydrator or whatever else.
I think dehydrator. I mean, aside from freezer, I think dehydrator would be my first recommendation to start. It's a
Probably depends on what you produce.
true, valid. Yes, I would agree with that. But I mean, as far as like simplicity and cost, barrier to entry is really low on it. Um, it's hard to screw it up.
Right.
I think I would recommend freeze or a dehydrator as first.
Yeah, for sure. I think the last thing that you didn't mention as far as long-term food storage mistakes is that
Yeah,
we really shouldn't be assuming that commercial packaging is going to last forever.
definitely not.
Yeah. Um,
Definitely not.
the date on the can might be, it might last quite a bit longer than that,
Sure. Oh yeah.
especially, especially when it's required and it's something like salt and they put an
Right.
expiration
Best if
date.
used by. It's like it's been here for how many years, and it's
Yeah.
just going to expire this next year. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. How many thousands of years has it been under the ground before you pulled it up?
Yes. Good thing we did it just in time. Um, Gosh. Well, especially because most of those dates are all CYA dates. They're just covering their keister, just so they don't get sued. So take take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and you can we're not gonna do it, but you can look up, where other people have actually kind of put together, and oftentimes through, like, food scientist information,
Yeah,
what will actually last and how long it will last and things, so you can get a better idea of what kinds of things will last well past their expiration date.
absolutely.
Because I think there's some kind of like if it, I don't remember if it's 5 years or what, but there's some date that they'll stamp on just about everything, where it's like basically just here's a here's a date, even if it would last forever.
Right. Yes. Oh goodness. Well, and then so there's a guy he produces a lot of content. Rob Benson. I know Vic knows him because he's sent me some of his clips. He does a really thorough job of evaluating and going through what things are the most shelf stable that exist. Like, and his intent is really on like almost from a chemical standpoint. Like, he's like, these are the chemicals that I would keep on hand because they're completely shelf stable and they're useful for making your own bleach so that you can purify your own water, or for cleaning out wounds, or for he's got a really cool website and a whole PDF that you can download that has a whole bunch of really good information.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of people who we're just dipping our toes in
Oh
this
yeah.
realm, to give people some baseline understanding of these things, and then hopefully you can go out and do your own research and choose one of these to really dig into and learn well.
Hmm. But I mean, as far as like the dates are concerned, so see, from what I looked into, a best by date is referring to the quality of the contents. So they want it, to sell it before it degrades. Whereas a use by date is the manufacturer's recommendation. So unless it's regulated, like infant formula. Then there's the sell by date, and that's the retail inventory management. So not the manufacturer, but the sellers. So a sell by date isn't the same as a use by date or a best by date. So they all have their own codes and their own reasons for whatever.
It's like legal definitions.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah. Um shelf life, really, it's going to come down to temperature, moisture, packaging, exposure to light. We didn't really talk about that one. There's a lot of things that are light reactive. Have you ever thought about, like, I know you have, um like old medicine bottles that had that they were in an amber colored glass, and that was
Mhm.
intentional because it reduced the amount of interaction with light, and so that it didn't break down the volatile compounds that were in the medicine. Granted, it was like all like narcotics, but anyway, that's a whole different issue. Um, but that still stands true today. There's a lot of times, so if you're making tinctures and salves, if you've got a tincture, you don't necessarily want that exposed to light, so you might want to put that into the dark corner of your closet, because you need to keep that away from light because you don't want it breaking down.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, um There's canning jars. They used to be blue. I don't know if that was the purpose, but there are jars you can get for various things that are a dark color to keep light out.
Hmm.
And that's a valid point. We want to keep things in dark places for the most part because any amount of UV or other light is going to help break that thing down.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty.
So I see the emergency pantry challenge. Do you want to give me kind of a rundown of what that means and what that would look like?
Okay, so my thought was, kind of piggybacking on the don't go prepping for with food that you don't eat.
Mhm.
So if you already eat, rice and pasta and beans and oats and canned veggies and canned fruits and things like that, um, try to live off of what you got right now and figure out what you're going through quickly, because maybe 3 meals might use the same, canned corn or whatever it is. Then you can identify that as a pinch point. You're like, oh, okay, I need to have, 3 times as much canned corn because all of these different recipes all call for that. So now we're going to modify, we're going to tweak your canned storage system. Then as time goes on, whenever you do go to the store, you're going to go and you're going to buy an additional whatever, and you're going to do it in proportion to how you're consuming it, because we're going to go with a first in first out system, and we're going to do it in proportion. So we're not going to accumulate this massive amount of just beans, because we're not going to go through it fast enough before it goes bad. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're actually using our standing inventories. So that's the challenge. So identify your pinch points, figure out what proportions of all of your different ingredients you need to have, and then we'll use that and start adding to it, and just get a little bit extra each time you go to the store. And in a matter of a month, 2 months, you'll have a whole extra week's worth of food on hand. Then you'll have 2 weeks worth of food on hand. Then you'll have a month's worth of food on hand. And that's where we build up that preparedness without breaking the budget and making sure that it's actual food that we eat.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing you can do, the a term you can look up to see the systems that other people have created is copy canning.
Hmm.
And so the idea is you look at what you're getting of doesn't have to be canned, but the idea is
Right.
canning is a simple way of or canned goods are a simple way of explaining it. If you've got something, if you've got things that can be preserved for a while or stored for a while that you're using on a consistent basis. So every time you make a meal, write down what you used and how much of it
Right.
and do that for a month or 2, and once you've done that, look at that and see the things you're using and then start buying enough extra, so then you don't you might think that you use X amount of flour and you end up with way too much flour
Yes.
because you didn't actually track what you're using before you went and started buying more.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what we don't want people doing. We don't want them spending the money, taking up the space, having all the stuff that might maybe gets, bugs in it. And then you end up losing it because we didn't preserve it correctly, because we need to make sure we're preserving everything. So yeah. And I do recommend, like, if you don't have a standing, inventory in your house to be able to last even just an extra week, that's your challenge, is to get an extra week or two's worth of food in your house ready to go at all times. And then as time goes on and money allows, grow that out into maybe you have a whole month's worth of extra food, or maybe you have 2 months worth of food. But we're going to do this incrementally, and like Ryan was saying, like proportionally, so that we're not buying an exorbitant amount of this one thing that we actually don't need to have that much of.
Yep. Well, and so in my household, we eat very little that comes from a long-term preservable, standpoint.
Sure.
However, what we could do and what we've well, I don't wanna explain too much of what I have done, but if if you're somebody who wants to eat really healthy and you're like, I don't want any canned goods from the store, I don't want, lots of pasta from the store or whatever else, um, you can survive a very long time on exclusively beef or chicken or right. So you could buy a half cow or a cow and put that in the freezer,
Yep.
and that can be a people are going to get sick of it and bored of it and a long-term issue, but they're going to be healthy, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
can it's a complete food,
Yeah.
right?
You've got all the fats, all the proteins. Yeah. You're good.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Your body can make the carbohydrates it needs. It's called gluconeogenesis, and it can
Yep.
make glucose out of protein. So you do not need any carbohydrates stored. If you want to, you can. But
Like me
it's just,
carbs.
yeah, it's just one little thing you could do. If you're trying to save money, this will actually save you money because it's a lot less expensive to buy in bulk,
Right.
buy a half cow than, as far as per price pound than to buy really high quality meat um, by the pound.
Right.
So that's an option for those who are maybe overwhelmed by some of this stuff or maybe just want really healthy things.
Well, and prioritizing protein is always going to be the top of my list. I'm always going to prioritize a protein over any other form of calories.
Mhm.
Because like you said, like I have to have that. I don't
Right.
have to have the other stuff.
Yeah, and I assume everybody listening to this understands the term essential in in health or in medical terms means that your body can't live without it or it needs it and can't produce it is
Right.
probably a better way of putting that.
Yeah.
And we can produce carbs within our system with other things.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
All right, so um building a 90-day pantry, you
So
kind of
we kind of already hit that one.
yeah.
I was just going to jump down to the foods that can last when properly stored. So, these are some things, and like we said, don't just store these and go, oh, I'm prepared, because store things that you actually eat. So like, yeah, if you already eat a bunch of rice, yeah, have some rice. It's a good thing to store because it will last for a long time. And if stored properly, so mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, small batches. I don't like the big bags because if anything goes wrong, then you lose a lot. 1 pound bags are really cool because then it's almost like, my family, that's about good for my family. Um, so
The other thing about the
uh,
large bags is, especially if you don't have a large family and you open up a Mylar bag that took up most of a 5-gallon bucket,
oof, that's a lot.
like of let's say rice,
Yeah.
for two people, that's like many months worth of rice.
So the counter starts counting as soon as you break that seal.
Yep.
Yeah. Having small
And
bags.
there's a guy near Nashville, Toby, who has he runs discountmylarbags.com.
Yeah.
So if you need Mylar bags, he is an awesome resource, but his website has all kinds of food preservation information and specifically around Mylar bags and using Mylar bags. And one of the things he specifically recommends is using far more small bags instead of one large bag,
Absolutely.
even though the one large bag overall might cost less to do or take less time to do, you
Right.
want a lot of small bags because they're going to be, they might be meal sized or, week sized rather than 6 month sized.
Right. Yeah. Cause once you open it up, like, especially if it was an emergency, like, you're not going to let it go to waste. But after 6 months, you're going to be really, really regretting that decision to store it in large quantities.
And I would also say if you're doing anything in Mylar bags, remember that the Mylar bags are to protect the food, but you
Mm,
need something to protect the bags from mice. Because
yep.
by the time you have mice
It's
or
too
they're
late.
causing a problem, it's too late. And so what you should be doing is the Mylar bags should then go inside of a larger plastic tote or a 5-gallon bucket or something to protect it from the four-legged, you know.
Vermin,
Yeah.
little buggers.
So any other things you want to mention on that front?
Yeah, I mean, like, just yeah, white rice, hard wheat, dry beans, rolled oats, sugar, keep it dry, salt, honey, freeze dried foods, powdered milks. Yeah, all those things are all great things to have on hand.
Yeah, and some of them can be fairly inexpensive while
Yeah,
times are good, right?
right.
So that's I think that's the maybe the trap with rice and beans is they're so
Yes.
inexpensive I can stockpile them. And like I said, that's fine. You
Yep.
can do that. Just don't do that as your primary
Primary. Mhm.
backup. This is like that's the, you know, dumb cousin who didn't listen to your advice, who lives down the road, who's like, "I need food." That's what that's for largely.
Yep. Yep. And I agree, Vic. It is financial budgeting is exactly what we're talking about, and I haven't gotten Tabitha on yet. I she's life keeps happening. She's I don't even think she's in Tennessee at the moment. Um, because financial budgeting is exactly what you're talking about. You don't know what you have until you, yeah, you can't save until you know what you spend. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and that is a big part of what we the community of preparedness need to understand is if you don't know what you're spending, then how are you going to save anything? And that goes to food and money equally.
Yes, Vic's asking, "Is there a thunderstorm?" I don't
I
know if
thought
that's
I
coming.
heard some thunder.
Yeah, it might be coming through on my end, I guess. Nothing scary. I'm still in my camper.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Alrighty.
my
Well,
office.
your yes, your office, yes, your remote office. That was pretty much everything I had. Yeah, that's pretty much all of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think hopefully people have gotten kind of a good round idea of what some of the modern food preservation methods are. Obviously,
Mhm.
we've gone into pemmican or whatever else, but
Yeah, yeah.
nobody actually
Or
wants
Jack.
to eat that.
No.
So I think we'll avoid that. I'd much rather eat some smoked meats.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you for kind of putting together the notes and thinking through this. I think it was a fun topic. Hopefully, people learned quite a bit from it and got a little bit of a kick in the butt to try something.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't have the resources, obviously you can dig around online or you can buy a good book that's been vetted that Jared has in his shop, and you can meet a cool guy locally too. So, if you're local, I'd recommend heading over to his shop and seeing what he's got for books on the topic. And with that, Jared, could you kind of give people a bit rundown on what you do?
Sure. So I own Resilient Living. It is resilientliving.com, livin.com. And we have a physical store right on the corner of 111 and Hodges Ferry, right between Sparta and Spencer. So if you're traveling between Cookville and Chattanooga, you'll pass right by me. If you're in the heading towards like Fall Creek Falls, hit me up. So we sell everything like we've talked about, a whole plethora of books, but everything in general preparedness. So I'm a firearms dealer. I do knives, I do gunsmithing. We've got pants and shirts and camping gear, backpacks, books, yeah, canning stuff. Um, yeah, like we got a lot of it's the funniest thing when people walk in the store like, "Wow, you've got a lot of stuff in here," because it's only 500 square foot. Like I don't have a lot of space, but boy, I pack it in there.
Yeah, you've got some really nice shelves and a lot of stuff on those, and
Oh, thank you. It was
yeah,
fun
it's
to build.
great.
So yes, come by the shop. We do things like this. We do the Resilient Living podcast, and we do classes. Um, yeah, still trying to hammer down the firearms safety class. But we'll be doing land navigation class and a emergency communications class. Hopefully soon. The guy I was going to use to teach that one he moved away. So trying to find another guy. So anyway, that's what I do. What do you do?
Well, I am the owner of the homesteadconsultant.com. I help people set up homesteads that are really a lot of what I do is try to help people avoid large mistakes to make sure that their homestead does better, that they are able to be a part of the community and get them connected with the community. But I really like helping people set up strong, resilient, tied together homesteads that do a good job. And basically, I got to make the mistakes ahead of time for you, and so then you can pay me to make the mistakes, so you don't have to make the mistakes. Is kind of the gist of
Right.
what I do. You can find my information at thehomesteadconsultant.com. I'm also, if you just look up the Homestead Consultant on most of the other socials, you'll find me. Yep, Jared just disappeared. Thunderstorm may have gotten him. So, is he back? Did he? We'll see. Jared, you back? That's weird.
I'm here. Oh goodness.
Okay, and I can hear you too. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you everybody for being here. We appreciate you hanging out and for all the comments.
Yeah.
And until next time, we will see you next week.